Blue Eye Samurai, the brand new Netflix original anime, which I think is one of the best animes ever, especially in modern day, and quite frankly, one of the best even television series in general. Hello, everyone, and welcome to All Things Watched. And welcome to our Blue Eye Samurai official after show. In this episode, we are going to talk about episode 4 of the series, Peculiarities. Peculiarities, if I can say that word. Anyways, this episode opens with Akemi, and she is here. And what is very interesting about this is that Akemi is feeding this tea or broth or soup or whatever it is, actually to our main character, Mitsu. And so this episode actually kind of gives you the ending before going back and showing you what really happens and how we get to this point. And quite frankly, I said in episode 3 that was my favorite episode thus far in terms of character development, which I still stand by. I think episode 3 so far had the best character development, but this episode 4, had the best storytelling, and we're going to break it down, and we're going to see why. So the episode opens, and now it's going to go back in time and show us how Akemi ends up getting to this point to meet Mitsu and actually potentially try and poison her with this soup/broth. So now we're going back in time basically to see how it gets there. And so here we see Ringo and Mitsu, and they have now gotten to this town. If you can remember, they got a bunch of information in the previous episode telling them how to get to the person that she's trying to kill, the White Devil. We'll just call him the White Devils. There's 4 White Devils, just for the sake of it's easier for me to have to try to remember her name. She already killed one White Devil. Now she's looking for another White Devil. And so in the last episode, she got a bunch of information on how to get there and how to get in. And so they're continuing on their adventure, and they come to this really cool little town. And Mitsu's very intelligent. She knows where to go. She knows what to do. She knows the right people to talk to and all this stuff. And so as they're walking through town, we end up coming to this really cool scene, which was also extremely bloody. The Blue Eye Samurai anime is an anime that does not hold back. This is a very vicious, very rated R anime. There's lots of nudity, there's lots of blood, guts, and gore, so you really don't want to be watching this with your children. But anyways, this sequence is really cool. They show you sort of like the old-fashioned duel, kind of, the way that it used to be. And it was very realistic as well, I thought. I really liked how quick the whole thing was over. You could really tell the skill and the talents and the different skill set between these two warriors. One guy just literally rips right through the other guy as if it was nothing, but it was really cool. And Mitsu and Ringo is actually here watching this. But what we don't realize at this point in time, not until the end of the episode, is that Akemi is actually here as well, but she's in a different part of the audience. We just don't know it yet, and this is actually the very first time that they cross paths. We just haven't seen that yet. So anyways, Mitsu and Ringo carry on their adventure, and they end up coming to this place, which is, I believe, a specific brothel. Mitsu wanted to go here specifically to talk to one of the, I believe it was the owner of the brothel, or the person who's running the brothel, or whatever it was. I believe I believe she was the person actually running the brothel, or the leader and whatnot. And so she goes in, and of course they're greeted, and they have to go in and they get seated, and the hostess, we'll say, or the host, who is basically the greeter, he's trying to bring all these different types of women and these different types of pleasures to Mitsu and Ringo, but she's just not having it. She's not here for pleasure. She's here for business and whatnot. And so then, of course, finally, the main person who owns the brothel, the person that Mitsu is actually looking for, she finally does come out, and she comes over and sits down with Ringo and Mitsu. And it was I really liked their dynamic here. I really liked how she was, she's not just the boss. She was actually sort of, explaining to them how it works. She was explaining to them, people's desires and how different people want different things, how different people like different pleasures. And it was a really cool sequence, I thought, because it actually shows how intelligent she is. She's not just someone who runs a brothel. She's someone who sees people's desires and pleasures, and which really could ultimately help her read people and become a very good sense of, give her a really good sense of perception and personality, because she would know, what people like, what people don't like, and all that kind of stuff. And so she actually ends up actually showing Mitsu sort of while she's she's explaining, because she takes Mitsu down this hallway which has a whole bunch of different sort of like peek holes, and and they're able to actually look in at people's desires. And I thought that that was really cool as well, because this also is sort of an advantage for the owner of the brothel, because it's a great way to exploit people and sort of reveal who they really are, and really get to know them, almost as, in a way that she might even be able to blackmail somebody, for as a means of getting stuff or exploiting people. So I just thought that that scene was really, really cool. And so finally, Mitsu ends up going into a private room with this lady, and basically keeps talking to her. She's trying to get information, trying to figure out, well, actually what it is she learned that this lady is the lady that owns the prostitutes that goes to that secure castle that we learned about in the last episode, where the White Devil is that she's trying to kill, White Devil number 2. And so she wants to try to infiltrate that castle by going in as a prostitute. That's the whole reason why she's here. And so finally she's able to sit down here privately with this lady, and she basically really tells her, listen, I will do whatever it takes, whatever you want, just do me this favor, get me in, and I'll do whatever you want. And so of course they do come to sort of an agreement, but then Mitsu tells her that she just wants to be left alone, and they sort of or no, she doesn't tell her that she wants to be left alone, sorry. She tells her that she wants to be a part of that, the prostitutes to go into that into the castle. And so then that leader ends up taking Mitsu out for a walk, and she brings him down to, I guess, competition, or another clan, or another like family, and another emblem and whatnot, of, I guess, people that sort of has her under their thumb, not in the sense that they control her, but they actually have someone that she really cares about. And the people are, and this person who owns this other building, this other organization, this other establishment, actually has really good fighters, really good warriors, and that's why she's not really able to help the person that she loves, because she herself is not a fighter and not a warrior, which is why she wants Mitsu. And so they sort of make this agreement where she says, okay, well, if you can help my loved one, then in return I'll give you what you want, and I'll make you one of my prostitutes, and let you go into that castle. And so she brings him there and explains to her how they're known as, I think they call them 1,000 claws, I think it is, like actual claws, as in like a weapon. They use these metal claws. And while she's explaining it, then we also see the flashbacks. We see her who owned the brothel. We see her in the flashback with this other, seems like a younger lady that she really has grown attached to. And what I thought was really interesting too, and really smart with the writing of this episode, was that rather than her making Mitsu, and I can't quite remember her name, but I think her name was Kuma. Now I could be completely wrong, but I think her name was Kuma, the leader of that brothel, or the lady who ran the brothel. And so Kuma tells her that all she wants is, she doesn't want Mitsu to rescue this girl, because she said if she's rescued, that could potentially cause a war between her and the Thousand Claw clan, or whatever you want to call them. And so she explains to her the best thing to do is actually to kill the person that she loves, so that she would no longer be suffering. And that's basically the agreement that they make. Mitsu agrees to kill the person that she loves. So rather than rescue her, actually kill her, so she's put out of her misery. And then we come back to the modern day now, and Mitsu can actually see her, the young lady that that Kuma wants her to kill, and she now can see what she looks like. She can sort of follow them, and Mitsu can basically do what Mitsu does best, and she can be the samurai that she is, the warrior that she is, and she can go in and kill her. Now of course there is still a conflict. Even if Mitsu do go in, and even if she kills the young lady, it's still going to cause problems. So what Kuma tells Mitsu is that she has to make sure that it looks like a suicide, because if not, then it would still end up starting a war, because that other clan, that other family would just know that Kuma was the one that did it. They would know that she sent somebody or went over there herself. Well, more likely that she sent somebody. And so they have to be very careful. So even though she's not actually killing any of the other family members, she still has to be very careful with how she proceeds, because if it, like I said, she has to make it look like a suicide. And so they get back to their brothel, and this is where Mitsu tells Kuma that she just wants to be left alone. Kuma offers her everything under the sun. Do you want this or that? Because she's a house of desires, a house of pleasure. And so Mitsu basically just tells her, no, leave me alone. I don't want anything to do. I just want to be left alone, and all that kind of stuff. Now Mitsu is still, I think, under the guise of a man. I don't think everyone most people still thinks Mitsu is a man. I'm pretty sure, but obviously she's not. Now, in the meantime, back at home base, or Akemi's home, remember Akemi has run away because she's looking for Taigen, and she said that she would have about a 4-day head start before anyone would actually start coming to look for her. And so now, I guess today is day 4, and now her father, or her family, her father finally knows now that she's gone, and so she's, no, now he's going to send out people to look for her, to retrieve her, and bring her back. And I don't even really know what the punishment will be. I don't know necessarily that he would kill her, but well, maybe he would. I don't really know what the punishment will be. But either way, now he has guards and authorities sent out on the search for her. Now, in the meantime, Akemi is still going around, and as you can see, she's holding up posters of pictures of Taigen and paintings of Taigen to, ask around, hey, have you seen this person? And hopefully get some information. Now, remember, at this point in time, she doesn't know yet that her father has sent people out looking for her, but she does know that it's very likely that it will happen soon. But she also has not actually crossed paths with Mitsu yet, which is really clever, which is why I said this episode has some very clever storytelling, because we think this is all happening simultaneously, but it's not. These are actually 2 different time periods. Kemi has not yet synced up with Mitsu, so we're really seeing 2 different stories being told roughly around the same time, but not 100%, not quite the same time. And so she's still asking people and all that good stuff. So she ends up leaving that town, and the person that's escorting her is actually getting a little bit frustrated now, I think, because every time they find a nice place, every time they find a spot where they could settle down, Kemi keeps saying no, but of course we know that that's because she's searching for Taigen, and so they have to keep moving and they have to keep going, and so that gentleman ends up getting very frustrated with her. And as you can see in the background, the horse is going by. This is actually Akemi's father's authority, or the guards, or their guards that are actually the people actually out looking for Akemi. And so this means now that they can't even travel on main roads because they risk being seen. And so this also makes the gentleman very frustrated, the person that's with her, because he's like, it's really uncomfortable for them. It's really hard for them to travel around on these ways, having to duck in corners and hide away and just take these, paths that are probably not as beaten down, not as wore down. So it's just tougher all around. And not to mention that she's on a horse, but the other guy is not. So it's not so bad for her, but it is pretty bad for him. But either way, now, the pressure's on for her. The guards are now officially out looking for her. And I do suspect that at some point, if she doesn't find Taigen, or at least not right away, I do suspect that her and Mitsu will be forced to work together, sort of the same way that Taigen and Mitsu was forced to work together. I do think that Akemi will end up falling into their story as well. I have a feeling, honestly, by the end of the season, I could be completely wrong, but I have a feeling that by the end of the season, they will probably all have to sort of become free of the burdens that they live. I feel like Mitsu and Taigen will have to make peace, and I think Taigen will have to leave that clan that he's a part of, and I think Akemi will likely have to leave too. I just don't really see how Akemi could return now at this point, so she will have no choice but to run away. But the question is whether or not Taigen cares about her enough to throw all that away. I don't really know how that'll go yet, but I do think that at some point the 3 of them will have to either leave or just go somewhere completely different, or maybe even just fight their way out. And so now we go back to Taigen, and we remember now that Taigen has been captured in the last episode by the second White Devil that Mitsu is out trying to kill. So he's captured now, and they are absolutely destroying him. They're hitting him with all sorts of different instruments, hammers and crowbars and wood, and they really got him beat to very close to death. And so he's really not doing well. But I do like how he's still able to stay focused and conscious enough where he still hasn't lost his honor. He still tells them, he tells them that they are not worthy of Mitsu's blade, and that, she's not worthy of them, and that she would, cut right through them and easily be able to beat them, which he's probably right. Mitsu probably is well enough trained to get through all of them. Although, by the end of this episode, it's hard to know, because Mitsu does take a pretty bad beating again by the end of this episode. So, even though she is really good, she's also only one person. And Taigen is so badly beaten now is that I don't even know if, even if Mitsu was there with him right now, I don't know if he would be strong enough to be able to fight his way out of it. So Mitsu could still very well just be on her own. So we'll have to wait and see how that goes. But I do think that I don't know. If he can recover enough, or if they were to stop hurting him or stop beating him, then I think he would be beneficial. But at this point, I just don't see how he would be able to help Mitsu infiltrate whatsoever. And quite frankly, he could even end up slowing her down at this point. But I still don't think that she would just straight out leave him. So now we go back to that scene, and now we can see Akemi's story is finally starting to sync up with Mitsu's stories, because now Akemi, we see the same fight that we seen or same duel that we seen at the beginning of the episode, but now from Akemi's perspective, you can see that she's still here, and she's in the audience on a different side of the crowd. Obviously, Mitsu didn't notice her. At least I don't think she noticed her, but Akemi obviously noticed Mitsu, and so now you can see the timelines starting to sync up. Now Akemi continues with this traveler, and now she has finally found the brothel that she wants to be a part of, and of course that is because she knows Mitsu's there, and it just so happens that the brothel that Mitsu is hiding out at is someone who does not get along with this keeper that is with Akemi, or this I don't even know what you would call him, escort or host, I guess, whatever you want to call him. He does not have a good sitting with this brothel, so it's going to be interesting. She's really going to have to work her way into this one because of the bad relationship between Kuma and the other gentleman. So anyways, he goes in there anyways, and he's able to get an acquaintance with Kuma, and he does everything in his power to try to convince her, hey, I apologize for our past. I know, whatever went on, it seems like he's very apologetic, and he's really trying to convince her to give him a chance. And so she agrees to meet with Akemi, and once she sees Akemi, she sees that she's very clean, very rich, very, she's very up and very well kept, obviously, because Akemi comes from a very rich background. She doesn't have to fight for survival every day like some people do. And so once she sees all this, she sees that Akemi is very fair. Then she ends up agreeing and takes her in. And so this, of course, now opens the door for Akemi now having access to Mitsu, because she knows that Mitsu is here somewhere. She doesn't quite know exactly where Mitsu is, but she does know that Mitsu is, at the very least, staying at this brothel, and at the very least is here somewhere. So Akemi ends up going around and searching around, and finally she ends up discovering where Mitsu is, but she is tested as well, which I thought was really cool. They did give her a test, so to speak, just to make sure that she is actually profitable and that she's actually good for business, and she passed the test. And then once she is past the test, she's sort of cleared a little bit to sort of free roam, and so this is when she finds Mitsu, and then this is when she puts the poison into the broth or the tea or whatever it is that she's given Mitsu, and then of course she's hoping that Mitsu will drink. But as we know, the audience, Mitsu is not as dumb as Akemi thinks, and Mitsu is also very observant. I would assume that that's a trait that's actually a part of being a samurai, considering that they are technically a form of assassins as well. They will be very observant, and she has a very keen eye, and so she knew right away who Akemi was. She knew not to trust Akemi, and she also knew that Akemi would try and poison her, so she overpowers her, holding her down. But she doesn't kill her. She doesn't even really hurt her really in any serious way. She doesn't hit her or do anything really other than tie her up. And she tells Ringo to guard her, and she puts a little tiny not a butter knife, but like a steak knife, like a small knife, a little tiny blade on Ringo's arm, because Ringo obviously is a double amputee. He doesn't actually have hands, so he has to sort of tie the knife onto his arm, which is really funny. And she tells Ringo now to guard Akemi, and if she moves, just kill her, which is really funny. But of course, Ringo is like, he doesn't really want to hurt anybody. He has a really kind heart, a very gentle and soft soul. But at the same time, he is her apprentice, and she does remind him that, a part of being apprentice is that every now and then you might have to, eventually you're probably going to have to kill or take a life, especially if you want to be a samurai. That's what they do. They go around taking lives, they fight, they kill, and all that stuff. So it's just really, really cool, funny interaction. But a part of me wonders if Ringo really does actually want to be a samurai, or is he just really someone who wants to help Mitsu? Because with the interaction that he had in the previous episode with Taigen, it does seem more so like he wants to more so just be a sidekick as opposed to a straight up samurai. I think he wants to be a part of Mitsu's story, but he doesn't necessarily want to be Mitsu, if that makes sense. He doesn't want to be, like she is. So, anyways, Ringo is here, and he's guarding Akemi, and so now Mitsu heads out for her mission to try and kill the girl, but by making it look like a suicide. And so we get some really cool animation here, some really cool sequences of her literally going like super stealthy, which is exactly what a samurai would do. She's like crawling along the top of ceilings or the top of roofs. She's climbing up the side of buildings and doing all these really cool things. And then finally she makes her way in. She's crawling literally through the rafters of the roof and stuff, and she finally finds the girl. And of course, the girl is very nervous and very afraid of Mitsu because she doesn't know who she is. She doesn't know if she can trust her. Is she a part of the 1,000 or 100 Claw clan? 1,000 clan, I think they call them, or 1,000 Claw clan. So she doesn't really know who she is. So before Mitsu actually went on this mission, Kuma told Mitsu to do a certain sign language to the young girl so that she would know that she was sent by Kuma and by the lady that runs the brothel. And so Mitsu does the sign and whatnot, and then ends up actually killing the girl after the girl receives the sign, and then she ends up killing the guard, which I thought was which I thought was actually pretty clever. But then she puts the guard down on top of the young girl and makes it look like there was a fight. The young girl has a knife in her hand. She places a knife in the young girl's hands, and she places the hand of the bodyguard, or the whatever you want to call him, the warrior, around her neck. So it makes it look like he was defending himself against her. The only thing I never noticed was if she actually killed him. Like, I didn't notice her stab him or do really anything to him. So I might have missed that, but either way, she stages it so that it looks like a suicide. And then, unfortunately, just as she leaves in, she jumps out and she's able to escape, and she goes down to the ground, and she ends up being spotted by this child. Now, at this point in time, I wasn't really sure if that was even really going to matter, because we don't really know who this child is. He could be good, he could be bad. We don't really know really who or what he is. But by the end of the episode, you'll learn that it turns out that he is working for that clan that Mitsu just infiltrated. But either way, at this point in time, Mitsu doesn't know this, and I think under normal circumstance, she probably would have actually killed him just for the sake of eliminating witnesses. But in this case, obviously, she's not going to kill the child. She lets him live, and she tells him to go to a certain area and tell them, about whatever happened, or tell them that there was an attack or something like that. And so Mitsu is able to get back now to Kuma and back to the brothel. And of course, she tells Kuma, hey, the mission's done, it's completed, I killed her, I made it look like a suicide. And Kuma asks Mitsu, did the girl know that you sent me? Did you do the sign? And all Mitsu says is, yes, I did it, and she understood, or she received it, or something like that, she said. But either way, she acknowledged that she did the sign, and that the young girl acknowledged it back. She understood, she knew what it was, and she responded. And then the very final scene, and the very last scene of the whole episode is, of course, when they get a knock on the door at the brothel, and Kuma comes over and answers the door, and here is the other clan, the clan that Mitsu just infiltrated and killed one of the warriors. And of course, he's there with his 1,000 Claw army, or warriors, whatever you want to call them. And so they know, obviously, now they know that Kuma was behind this attack. Which I was kind of thinking anyways, because even though Mitsu did make it look like a suicide, I did think there were moments when when I thought to myself, it really doesn't look that much like a suicide. Like I just felt like she probably could have done something a little bit more believable, maybe even have it so that like the young girl maybe would run and jump through the window or something like that. Like I didn't really buy the whole idea that the young girl would have just attacked the guy with a knife or a blade, because I would just think that they would have checked the girl, and especially considering the girl was naked, like how would she have even gotten the blade, so to speak? And there's just a lot to it that considering that she was a samurai and that the Thousand Claw army was a samurai as well, were all like very legitimate, highly skilled and highly qualified warriors. I just don't believe that she would have even been able to overpower that kind of guard, and would not have been able to, and even if she could overpower him in the sense of having strength, I think the warrior would have been well trained enough to not just die by a pair of scissors or a small blade that the young girl had. So even though I think Mitsu did the best of what she could with what she was given, I still didn't really buy into it myself. I just thought that they were all such trained professional warriors that nobody would really buy into that story. And of course that's exactly what we see here. They didn't buy the story, and that's why they're here now with Kuma, and on Kuma's doorstep, basically ready for war, because they know that this was an act from her. And so essentially that's pretty well the entire episode of this episode of Blue Eye Samurai. That was episode 4 in a nutshell. That was pretty well all the major stuff that happens, all the big scenes. There were some smaller scenes and stuff and whatnot as well that happened there. There was a couple of scenes with like the White Devil over in the castle where they have Taigen, and you could see that he is sort of getting very bored and getting very frustrated. He also very much has like an anger management problem. He's very temperamental, so I can see why the warrior guy, the Japanese guy, don't really want to do business with him, which we learned in the previous episode when right before Mitsu cut off his hand. You could tell that he was trying to find a way out of that partnership anyways, and so you see little glimpses of that even here in this episode. While they're torturing Taigen, he's kind of like, he literally says he's bored, he doesn't want to do it, which makes me think that he probably has done this already like 1,000 times to the point now where it's boring. He just don't even enjoy it anymore. So little things like that, which are little subtle hints to his personality, what makes him, even that more formidable. It'll be that much more enjoyable when Mitsu eventually does get her hands on him and just, goes all out and whatnot. But overall, I did really like this episode. I thought it was a great story development and really well written. I really liked how they showed Akemi's story in parallel with Mitsu's and then synced them up at the end. I'm also very curious to see where Akemi goes from here. She has everybody looking for her. Now Mitsu is going to have to deal with this clan of warriors or whatever it is. I don't think that she's going to die, obviously. I mean, that doesn't mean she won't die at the end of the season, but I don't think she's going to die here. I'm curious to see how she's going to get out of it, though. I don't know if she'll be able to just manipulate her way out of it by, lying and talking her way out of it, or if she'll actually have to fight. If she does have to fight, I don't know that she would be strong enough to be able to take them all on. She almost got killed just fighting the Four Fangs. I would assume that she's still injured as well. There couldn't be that much time gone by to the point where she's actually fully healed. But who knows? It is an anime. Maybe she is fully healed. But either way, I just don't know how she's going to get out of this one. But that makes it exciting to see the next episode, to see where episode 5 goes, see how she gets out of that, out of that situation. And also, I'm very much looking forward to her finding that White Devil and going to that castle. And eventually, I'm even more excited to see her reunite with Taigen, to see how she's going to help Taigen, and how is he going to get out of this, or is he going to get out of it? And not only that, but would Akemi end up going with her? Maybe Akemi, technically Akemi is now actually hired by Kuma, so technically speaking, she is a prostitute now, so she could actually end up going in there with Mitsu, which could actually be very beneficial. We haven't really seen Akemi actually fight or anything like that, so we don't really know if she's actually a warrior, or if she's just, not a warrior, it's just someone who's always been sort of like a princess, but we don't really know that yet. Maybe she can fight just as good as, Taigen. I'd be very curious to see that. I think it would be really cool, actually, to see Mitsu and Akemi infiltrate this base. That would be really fun. and all that good stuff. But that's pretty well all I got for this episode. So let me know in the comment section below if you've seen this episode, and if you'd like to tell me why or why not. If you like this video, click that subscribe button. And until the next one, take care.